Goddess. Welcome back to the Hello Goddess podcast. I am your host, Mandy de Grace. If you don't know me, I am a wellness lover, a Reiki practitioner, and a spiritual seeker. So today I decided that it was finally time for me to make another episode. So I took out my mic and my laptop and I'm sitting here with you with my coffee. And yeah, I'm just really excited to reconnect with you. So as you probably noticed, this channel, usually more often than not, I will have guests on my podcast. And once in a while, I'll do one just by myself. To be completely honest, I find that when I do it on my own, I find that a little bit intimidating. So that's why sometimes I procrastinate on making solo episodes. So I've been thinking about this episode for a while now, maybe a few weeks, and the topic that I chose to talk about is self-sabotage. So if you are completely new to the personal development and spiritual circles, maybe you've never heard of the term self-sabotage. So let me explain what that means first. So the term self-sabotage is exactly what it sounds like. You're stopping yourself, you're sabotaging yourself from doing something good or from succeeding. Now you may be asking yourself, excuse me, Mandy, why would somebody stop themselves from succeeding? Why would somebody not want to succeed? And I want to take the time to really explain the reason why people self-sabotage. So this episode is going to be me explaining different forms of self-sabotage that can appear in your life and also tips and tricks on how to overcome that. So this really ties into psychology and the science of psychology. So before I go any further, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a foundation on psychology so you can understand why people do self-sabotage. So the way that the mind works is the brain wants to go where things are familiar because that's what's safe. We don't want to venture too far out of our comfort zone because we fear that something will happen, and the brain is just made to protect us. The brain wants us to stay where things are familiar, where we know for sure that we're safe, whether that safety means physical safety, emotional safety, or mental safety. That being said, there's kind of a paradox here because as much as the brain wants to stay safe, there's also an aspect of us that needs to grow, that needs to evolve. And we can't grow unless we go outside of our comfort zone. So here's where self-sabotage comes in. You want to try something new, whether that's a new job or a new relationship, a new project, and you want to grow and live new experiences, but a part of your brain is afraid because it's never been in this situation before. So what you're going to do is subconsciously or consciously, actually, you're going to self-sabotage this experience for yourself. So self-sabotage can present itself in so many ways. For example, you may have a panic or anxiety attack facing the new situation. You may feel tired and you may just want to stay in bed all day. You may find excuses to not do what you know you want to do in your heart. And there's just so many ways that self-sabotage can show up and present itself in your life. Because, like I said, the brain craves safety. But like I said earlier, if you always stay in the same spot, how are you going to grow? How are you going to live new experiences? So in this episode, I'm going to teach you and show you different tricks that you can use to face your self-sabotage. Okay, so the first form of self-sabotage that I want to talk about is perfectionism. And I realize that a lot of people don't link the two together, but they are very, very similar. If you are a perfectionist, chances are you deal with self-sabotage and procrastination because when you're doing something, whatever it is, you want it to be perfect so bad that it's almost impossible to reach your own standards. So I'll give you an example. Like myself, I consider myself a perfectionist. when I started to record podcast episode, I would re-record almost every sentence because it just wasn't perfect enough, and I realized I was wasting so much time, and I was completely missing the point. Like, what's important is that the message is understood. And so a way to face your self-sabotage if you're a perfectionist is to basically tell yourself that done is better than perfect. That's one of my mantras now. Done is better than perfect. So if you are a perfectionist, start expecting great things from you. Don't expect perfection. Do your best, and you'll realize soon enough that doing your best and not aiming for perfect will take you a lot further in life. So the second form of self-sabotage that I want to talk about is avoidance. And I'm just going to give you a little backstory here. So a year ago, I was in a car crash with my boyfriend, and it was terrifying. We didn't get hurt, thankfully, but it was on the highway. So since then, this whole year, I have been avoiding the highways as much as I can. And it's been a year. You would think by now I would be able to go on the highway with no problem, but I'm still scared. I'm still self-sabotaging myself. So I was talking about this with my therapist, and she told me, Mandy, the longer you take to jump back on the horse, the longer you take to go back on the highway, the more difficult it will be because you're avoiding it over and over again. And this is telling your brain over and over again that the highway is not safe, when 99.9% of the time, it is safe. So the second advice I want to give to you for this form of self-sabotage is to do one thing every single day that scares you. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be big, it can be small, it can be medium-sized. You just have to do something that scares you every single day because you want to get your brain used to the discomfort of fear. Fear is uncomfortable, but it's actually a very important teacher because through fear and through facing our fears, we grow, we evolve, we learn. And so you want to make sure that you face a fear every single day so that your brain is used to feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Okay, so the third and last form of self-sabotage that I want to talk about is overwhelm. So overwhelm is when you have something you want to do, but it seems so big and it seems like it's going to take such a long time that you'd rather not even start. For example, I'm going to give you a very simple example there, but let's say you haven't cleaned your room in like months, okay? And everything's piling up, all the dirty clothes and everything is just all over the place. And every day you're like, okay, I'm going to clean my room today. But you never end up doing it because the whole task seems overwhelming. It's way too much. So this can apply to many situations, but basically if your task is overwhelming, there's a good chance that you're going to start procrastinating on that task. And that is a form of self-sabotage because deep down you want to clean your room, you want to feel good in your room and everything just is in order. But if the task is overwhelming, there's a good chance you're not going to start. And here is my tip on this. Here's my advice. What you're going to do, you're not going to think about cleaning the whole room. You're going to start by cleaning just one corner or just one thing in your room. Like, for example, just the clothes or just the mirrors or just your closet. Like, just one task, because baby steps is better than no steps. And what I've learned along the journey is that when you have a big task like that to tackle, you can give yourself like a time limit to like just 5 minutes or just this one thing. But basically, once you start, that creates momentum. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to clean more than you expected because you just started somewhere. So give yourself a little task that you can do every single day when it comes to your goals. Baby steps is better than no steps. And like I said, when you start, sometimes you get the momentum and you end up doing a lot more than you expected. So I said that was the last form of self-sabotage, but I did think about another one. And this is fear of failure. So fear of failure is such a big problem because it stops us from doing the things that we want to do. and it stops us from reaching our dreams. And so, for example, for years I've been wanting to make a podcast, and I've been wanting to have my own YouTube channel and all of these things. But at the very beginning, I was so afraid to fail. I was so afraid of not being good enough that I didn't even want to try. And by listening to other podcasts and reading books of people that are successful and that have what I want in life, I've realized that they all started somewhere, and a lot of them weren't very good at what they did before at the very beginning. And they didn't have the money that they wanted to have in the beginning, and they didn't have the following that they wanted to have in the beginning. And so I really had to be realistic with myself and be like, okay, I'm just gonna try this and I'm gonna give myself permission to suck. No, but it's true. Like, if you give yourself permission to suck at something, if you're not too scared to just go for gold, go for what you want, and you realize that failing is a good thing because it gives you information. Fall 7 times, get back up 8. And that's how you face self-sabotage. You just take the step. You just go for it. You just do it. Know that it is normal to not have every single thing figured out at the beginning of your journey. It's normal that you're going to stumble. You're going to fail sometimes. You're going to face challenges. But that's the whole point of the journey. You're going to grow through that. And if you never try, then you'll never know. So that's it for today's episode. I hope that was helpful and that you learned something new about yourself. Self-sabotage is something that we all deal with to a certain degree. And if you're able to face your fears, to take baby steps, to step out of your comfort zone, to know that it's okay to not be perfect, and to just not be afraid to fail sometimes, because failure gives us information so we can readjust and go towards success. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, send it to a friend that may need it. Sending you all of the love, all of the light, and the Reiki energy. Bye!